Welcome to Luca Talks Sports, part of the Sports Talk Line network where we talk sports 24/7, 365. I'm your host for the show, Luca DeAngelis. In today's episode 2 of the show, I have Joshua Griffith from Vancouver, British Columbia as my guest. Our Canadian friend is a host of the Unnamed Sports Show, which is also part of the Sports Talk Line network. And on his show, he covers any and all sports. His particular specialties are the MLS and the NHL, and Joshua even has media credentials for Vancouver's MLS team, the Whitecaps. Today we're not going to be talking about either of those sports, however. We'll be talking about the NBA playoffs, and we'll be previewing round 2 matchups across both conferences. Also, if you like what you hear today, please like the video, subscribe, leave your comments and your thoughts because we'd love to hear from you. Now, without further ado, let's get Joshua on the call. Hey everybody, welcome to Luca Talks Sports, part of the Sports Talk Line network. I'm your host, Luca DeAngelis, and I'm joined for episode 2, Joshua Griffith. Josh, thanks for coming on the show today with me.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, and I'm really excited about your brand new show. Love to see new additions on the Sports Talk Line lineup. I really enjoyed your show last week, so thanks for having me on.
No, thanks for being here. So for those who aren't aware, Josh is also part of the Sports Talk Line network. He's got one of the network's more successful shows, the Unnamed Sports Show. And I first met Josh actually as a guest on his show talking about the All-Star break, I think it was.
Yes, I think it was the All-Star break we talked about, yes.
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago now, doesn't it?
Geez, yeah, it does. All the basketball that's happened since then, everything that's happened throughout the league, in the playoffs now. Yeah, it seems like a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I was full of hope back then about the Lakers season. And as we know, they crashed out of the playoffs in the first round. It feels like a whole lifetime ago. And before we get into the show, I just got to check: are you all good up in Canada? Are you safe? Are you well?
We're starting to get there. The vaccines, the numbers are getting up. The cases are going down. We're just under 200 a day now. Rolling averages are going real down, and then BC's starting to open up again too, which is nice. So hopefully get some traveling done a little bit this summer.
Well, that'd be awesome. BC is meant to be beautiful in summer. I've got some friends who live up there, who came from Australia, and they tried to get me to move. They rave about it so much. So fingers crossed for you all to have a COVID-safe summer.
Yeah, really looking forward to it because, like you said, BC's beautiful in all around, but summer especially, and it's meant to be traveled.
Yeah, I'll eventually come visit once we're all vaccinated and the world's a bit normal. Before we get into the playoffs, there is one thing I've got to address. So the viewers aren't aware of this, but you pointed out from my episode 1, my gigantic water bottle here. You commented on it. You said it was too big. I just need to make it clear to the viewers, when you talk sports 24/7, 365 like we do at Sports Talk Line, you've got to stay as hydrated as the players. So if you don't have a 2.2 litre water bottle, highly recommend you go get one, Joshua, because this thing's been a lifesaver for me and it means I don't forget to drink water.
That's fantastic. I love it. So I have my coffee mug, and that usually gets me through the times. Sometimes when I go a little bit long on my show, I run out, but maybe I'll have to think about upgrading it and get with the giant water bottle.
We'll get some Sports Talk Line ones, branded ones. That'd be perfect.
Yes, I think we have coffee mugs. I don't know if we have water bottles on the store there, but I know we have coffee mugs.
No, we'll definitely look into that. Now, without further ado, let's talk about this year's playoffs. All the first round series have been decided, with the exception of Dallas versus the Clippers. So that's gone to Game 7. It's the first 7-game series in NBA history where for the first 6 games, the away team has won. It had happened when it was best of 5 in the past, I think in the 80s. But yeah, first time it's happened. Who do you think wins Game 7?
It's a fantastic series so far, and everybody loves Game 7s in the playoffs especially too. So it's been crazy that it's been all road winners in this series because, Dallas is a tough barn to play, and then everybody knows it's Staples Center. I mean, LA, the Clippers don't have as, I would say, the ruckus fan base as the Lakers there, but they still got pretty good fan base, and it's hard to play there. So I was surprised that nobody's won a home game, and I don't know that it's going to change in Game 7 because I think Dallas might be able to pull up a bit of an upset in this one, but it's going to really come down to how healthy Luca is.
Yeah, it's his shoulder that's been bothering him, isn't it?
It was his shoulder and kind of up around his neck that was kind of an issue for him. I mean, obviously it hasn't really slowed him down in the series, averaging 34 points a game. I mean, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 9.7 assists. So he's doing his thing, but the only thing that might stop Dallas right now is playoff Kawhi. Because he was dialed in Game 6, and Raptors fans, they know that Kawhi. They've seen it before. And if he's just decided to take that next step because he's maybe seen there's a path now in the West, we're going to be in for some fun basketball.
Yeah, he's been unstoppable. I think he's averaging 60% from the field for the series on almost 20 shots a game. Like, that's ridiculous. And he went for, 45 points in Game 6?
Like, and nothing more clutch than down in the last 2 minutes when Dallas was trying to make it a game. Kawhi just absolutely took over. Just step back three. No worries, I got this.
Yeah, I don't think there's a better one-on-one player in basketball, with maybe the exception of Kevin Durant, than a locked-in Kawhi Leonard. So I think that the Clippers are going to win in 7. I think they buck the trend just because I'm yet to see them stop Kawhi. I'm yet to see Dallas stop Kawhi. But when Dallas have won, it's usually been with ridiculous 3-point shooting, and I don't know how sustainable it is. But in a winner-takes-all game, Dallas could easily continue the trend of the series, especially if Luka's feeling a little better after his rest.
Yeah, I mean, Kristaps Porzingis needs to step up as well. And like you said, I mean, Kawhi, he's so good at both ends of the floor. He can take over and dominate defensively, which just leads to easy buckets, obviously. One of the things that I think's been kind of hurting Dallas is not having, because Luka's a pretty good defender as well, but Dallas switches everything.
Yep.
They're switching every single thing. And Kawhi and the Clippers are taking advantage of that right now. So, hey, could be the Clippers, could be the Mavericks. I just know it's going to be a great Game 7. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And it's interesting you mentioned the switching everything part, because my friends and I, when we were speaking about it, we noticed that Kawhi was hunting Luka Doncic on switches. And it wasn't because Luka was putting up a bad contest of it. It's just because he's not long and athletic enough to challenge him vertically. So Kawhi could just elevate over him. Like he wasn't there, basically.
I kind of noticed him hunting switches a bit. But I mean, I don't think Kawhi really has any issue with any of the defenders for Dallas. I think he's basing what he's doing against whoever he's getting the switches off. So like you mentioned, if it's Luka, he's shooting over him. If it's somebody like Porzingis, he's going to go around him. He's kind of just picking and choosing depending on who's making the switch. Yeah,
like I think the closest thing they've got to a Kawhi stopper is Dorian Finney-Smith. But even so, I think Kawhi is just too strong.
And then two, how much do you want to play him?
Yeah.
For his other end, right? So.
Yeah, that's right. I guess before we move on to the next round series, do you think either of these teams has a chance against the Jazz?
I want to say both of them do, but just with how well the Jazz have been playing. Like, I know they're always the perennial regular season team, amazing regular seasons, but they look pretty legit this year. So I want to say yes, but that's going to be one rested Utah team. The match or that series doesn't start till Tuesday. So yeah, I don't know. I want to say that Utah will take care of either of these two teams handedly. Yeah,
I think so too. I mean, I think that the Utah being underachievers it's overblown a little bit. You got to remember they lost to the 67-win Warriors in the second round. That was, I think, best record in the league that year. 65-win Rockets, also the best record in the league that year. And last year, I think the Nuggets, I mean, yes, they choked away a 3-1 lead, but the Nuggets was it the Nuggets a 3 seed or the 2 seed? The Nuggets were definitely the higher seed, and they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. So it's not like the Nuggets were a joke either. And they were full strength too. They weren't this year's Nuggets without Jamal Murray. They had Murray, they had Jokic, they had Jeremy Grant. So, yeah, I think the Jazz would take care of business against both teams, but I think it'd be a great series regardless.
I'm curious to see if the Jazz can, like we just mentioned, take that next step, because it's until they do it, they're going to be that team that can just get things done in the regular season.
It's true, and
sorry, go ahead.
I was saying it's true. It is justified a little bit. I mean, they might have had hard opposition, but you can only play who's in front of you, and they still haven't taken care of business in the postseason yet.
Yeah, and if there's any season where it was wide open in the West for them as the top seed to take things, it would be this year.
Yeah, I agree. I hope they win though. I like to see that narrative end. All right, so the other series in the West. This is really exciting because the Nuggets and the Suns. Yeah, I think neither of them have won a championship before. Neither
team has won a championship. One of the 5 teams, 2 of the 5 teams left actually that haven't won a championship.
Let's see if I know it off my head. Jazz, Suns, Nuggets. I know those 3 for sure.
Yeah.
I know the Bucks have won. I know the Sixers have won. I know the Hawks have won back in the 50s. The Nets haven't won, so that's 4. And
so the Hawks
and Clippers.
Way back, that was before.
That was in St. Louis.
I think that was before even the ABA.
Yeah, that was in St. Louis in the 50s. Yeah, and the Nets and Clippers.
They've never won an NBA championship. The Hawks have, and then just the 70s or the Nets and the Bucks won it in the ABA.
Yeah, they don't even count the ABA ones though for the NBA. But yeah, the Nets were legit in the ABA because they had was Dr. J in there?
I think so back then.
I think so. Anyway, getting a bit off topic, but yeah, it's two of the more powerful teams left in the West. Neither of them have won a title. They're led by future MVP Nikola Jokic, potential one-day MVP Devin Booker, and top 5 MVP candidate Chris Paul. So despite the fact these teams haven't had a lot of success in their history, they're both pretty star-studded. They're both very good teams. I was very, very impressed by the Suns taking care of business against my Lakers. And I was impressed by the Nuggets taking care of business against the Blazers without like one of their best players. It's a tough series to pick, to be honest. I don't know which direction it's going to go in.
Well, the loss for Denver, obviously, is going to be tough to overcome. Nikola Jokic, like you said, he's going to be the MVP. Dominated in the first round there, 33 points a game, 10.5 assists. But does Denver have really anybody else that's doing anything right now? It's a lot of, package pieces around Jokic. Michael Porter Jr. He's a great player. Aaron Gordon, Austin Rivers, Monte Morris. They definitely, that injury hurt them. And Phoenix, like you said, they're rolling. They just beat the defending NBA champions. They just took on the Lakers, LeBron and the Lakers. They're feeling good. You mentioned they didn't have success in the past, really, but I think an important piece of their success this year, because they didn't even make the playoffs last year. They had that amazing run to end the season, and almost made it in the bubble there in the play-ins. But Chris Paul, he has success everywhere he goes. He seems to be a calming presence to teams. He's definitely been a calming presence to a guy like Devin Booker, you mentioned, DeAndre Ayton too. Phoenix has got a lot of young, up-and-coming stars, and Chris Paul just seems to just go in there and fit so perfectly. 51 wins on the year. So I have Phoenix in the second round for this one, and I think it's going to be a pretty long series. I think hopefully we'll get 6, maybe even 7 games.
Yeah, I agree that Phoenix are a better team on paper. Chris Paul, like you said, he's a floor raiser. He might not have won a championship, but there's a stat that came out this year where every team that he's moved to has won more games than they had the previous year. So he's unbelievable. And I think I don't know if he was in the 50-40-90 club this year. If he wasn't, he was very close. I know he led the league in free throw percentage. He's still a great defender. He still plays at a high level at 36 years old. I hope for Phoenix's sake his shoulder is okay. It looked like a nothing injury when it happened and when he re-aggravated it. But just based on his free throw and 3-point accuracy last series against the Lakers, I think it's bothering him. But the beauty of Chris Paul's game is you don't need him to be that 20-point per game guy for him to be useful. It doesn't seem to have affected his passing. I think he had like a 46-7 or a 46-9 assist to turnover ratio in the first round. It was something ridiculous like that. And you've got Booker. You've got Booker to take the brunt of the offensive load. You've got Ayton, who shot like 90% at the rim in the first series. Jokic is an underrated rim protector, but he's not as athletic as Ayton. So it's something that they can exploit a little bit, I think. I just, as much as my brain says Phoenix, but my heart says Denver, just because they've been there and done that a little bit more than Phoenix. Like Jokic has just shown the ability to elevate lesser teammates around him. It's unbelievable how he's got guys like Monte Morris, Aaron Gordon, even Facu Campazzo. Like he's gotten them to be legitimate contributors on a playoff team. Austin Rivers has been immense in that first round. So I think it's weird. I think Denver in 7 is what my gut tells me, just based on the intangibles. But on paper, I think Phoenix should take it in 6 because I think Phoenix are probably top to bottom the most complete team left in the West.
Yeah, I would say up there. I mean, up there with Utah, but again, Utah always just it's passed on because until they do something. But yeah, Phoenix is a pretty complete team on paper.
Yeah, I mean they've got defenders out the wazoo. They've got like Mikal Bridges, who's going to be an All NBA defensive player this year, I think. You've got Jay Crowder, who he's a pest, but he's their pest. He's He knocks down open threes. He plays physical. He doesn't mind taking the challenge of guarding LeBrons of the world. I don't know if Kelly Oubre is going to come back this series, but Oubre is a piece I could add back into the fold. Who's fantastic. You got Cameron Payne, Cam Johnson, just very good role players who just know what they're good at and just do it well. Like no questions asked, no fuss.
It's like you said, it's a tough one to call on paper. I mean, maybe somebody gets the advantage early, but I don't know. I don't see much of an advantage for either teams. You mentioned maybe Ayton being a little bit more physical on Jokic, and I think that Jokic is probably going to stay away from him on the defensive side, just because that's just one more thing that he has to worry about, and know that he has to provide the bulk of the scoring with Jamal Murray for them. So
yeah, I think Ayton's the most physical center left in the playoffs. Rudy Gobert's a great defensive center. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but he doesn't offer that physicality that Ayton does. So Jokic can't really push. In theory, he can't push Ayton around like you could maybe even Gobert. But I think he's going to use his craftiness, his mid-range turnaround fadeaways, and probably try and take him out of the paint to open up things for Denver's slashers.
And if you touch Rudy Gobert too hard, he might flop.
He does go down a lot, doesn't he, for a big guy?
That's just they gotta get that out of the NBA.
Yeah, I can't stand flopping. Like in today's game, yesterday's game. There was those foul baiting. Luca would do it where he'd lean in and get the shots, and Paul George would do it. And like it's within the rules. I get why you would exploit the rules, but I still hate it. Like they need to change said rules to just discourage it, because it's becoming a lot more like soccer in terms of the staging.
And it's bad when me, who covers soccer mainly, is saying it's bad in basketball.
Absolutely.
Some of the ticky-tacky stuff, it's making, what it's doing is it's making the elite defenders in the league not be able to defend properly. And I love watching that kind of NBA. Like I love the games that don't get to 100 points because both teams are actually playing defense, as opposed to the 140, 130 games that we were getting all this year. At least to tighten up a bit for the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I mean, any game with the Brooklyn Nets, it's probably going to end up being that 140, 130. And that's actually a great segue into the next team I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the Brooklyn Bucks series that started today. Brooklyn ended up winning game 1 despite James Harden going down with a re-aggravation of his hamstring in the first 40 seconds. Brooklyn won 115 to 107, which I think that scoreline flattered Milwaukee at the end. I don't think it didn't really go under double digits for basically the whole second half. It's actually on the lowest scoring end of things for Brooklyn. They put up points in a hurry. But yeah, like they've got so much offensive firepower. Like Durant went for like the easiest 29 you'll ever see. Like it looked like he wasn't even breaking a sweat, and Kyrie went for 25. And when you've got role players chipping in for big points as well, like I think Joe Harris went for 19 and Blake Griffin went for 18. Like when you've got those role players firing, like even without a superstar, Brooklyn are just, for me, even before the Lakers had their injury troubles in the first round of the playoffs, Brooklyn were my pick to win the title, just because they've three superstars. Is just no other team can match them for firepower. And it's not like they don't have role players. Like Joe Harris is probably the best spot-up shooter in the league. And Blake Griffin, I mean, I thought he was done. I thought he was done and dusted. But clearly he was just done with Detroit, because he seems to have... He might not be the guy he was in his prime in Lob City with the Clippers, but he's a much more handy role player than I thought. Like I thought he sucked, and he's clearly proven that that's not the case.
Yeah, he's definitely come in as the, I guess, not so regular center for the Brooklyn Nets. But yeah, he's being effective. I mean, he shot 53% from the field, you know, in their game one win, which, like you said, 115, 107, a little bit flattering for the Milwaukee Bucks, as Brooklyn kind of just called it quits at the end there. And they put up 17 points in the fourth quarter, but they had it in the bag pretty much. Joe Harris, amazing shooter. 5 for 9 last game. He's somebody that Milwaukee has to stop, but Milwaukee has to stop the Brooklyn Nets a lot better than they did in yesterday's game, because, you know, I don't have what they shot up here. Sorry, I think they only held, or I think they were shooting 50%. Excuse me, 46% from the field. The Nets shot, and 37% from three. But when they had the game kind of out of hand, they were up over 50% field goals. They went on a slow spell at the end there and didn't really score. But like the Milwaukee Bucks have to play defense, and I'm probably in the minority with this one, because I have the Milwaukee Bucks winning in an upset, in the slight upset, despite how close these two teams were in the regular season. I think there's just something about Giannis this year. I think there's just a new attitude. You know, they did a good job with getting him some other pieces with, you know, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. So I think that Milwaukee is going to be able to come back, and that was even before James Harden went out for Brooklyn. So despite the first game loss, and it's in Brooklyn, so Milwaukee can still split this these two games. But I have Milwaukee winning this one, and I'm in the minority, I think.
A lot of my friends actually would agree with you. In some of my prominent group chats, Milwaukee's the favourite amongst them. Some of it's biased because everybody loves Giannis. I mean, how can you not love him? And the Brooklyn are the Death Star. You know, they're that big evil super team. But no, I had Brooklyn winning just because it's not so much Giannis. Like, although Giannis has shrunk in the playoffs when teams have schemed him out of it, he's not who I was worried about. It was actually Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. You know, guys who incredible regular season players, but they've never really stepped it up for the postseason. Especially Middleton's kind of he's maybe a little bit of it's unfair, but he's kind of gained the reputation as a shrinking violet. And today he was 6 from 23 from the field. Like, if your second best player is going 6 from 23 from the field, it's pretty tough to match Brooklyn like tit for tat. And Holiday, you know, Holiday was 7 from 19 as well, so he didn't have a particularly efficient game. And Brooklyn need more from their bench. I mean, not Brooklyn, sorry. Milwaukee need more from their bench. Brooklyn not so much. I think Milwaukee had 17.
You're not getting anything from Brooklyn's bench. I mean, Brooklyn knows that.
No. But Brooklyn's bench actually outscored Milwaukee's today. Like, I'm doing some quick math in my head, and it's I think it was 24-17. So
yes, but You got to remember though. Mike James came off the bench right away for James Harden.
Yeah.
He scored 12 points. So
Yeah.
he technically was in the starting lineup. I saw that.
Yeah, so that's a little misleading. No, that's fair.
I mean, you mentioned the depth of Milwaukee this year, and it not really stepping up. I think that's something that they do need to step up, and obviously Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday shooting a combined 13 for 42 is not going to cut it in any series. Giannis needs help. He can shoot 66% all day, but unless he's taking 60 shots there, they're not going to win. But I think like additions like Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton kind of like they're like the little role pieces that Milwaukee didn't have too. And then you know how you mentioned everybody likes Giannis, but nobody's been talking about Giannis this year.
No.
Nobody's been talking about AD or LeBron or the Lakers or Jokic winning MVP or the Big Three for Brooklyn, or even go back to the end of the regular season. It was, Steph Curry's making a run. It's not about Giannis this year, and I think that he's kind of like, okay, didn't win MVP, name's not even in. That's not what I want. I want a ring. I want the title, and I think he's just super focused this season.
Yeah, he's been there and done that with MVP. He won the last two. This year he's a bit more out of the limelight, like you mentioned, with all these other storylines going around. He still had a great season, so I think part of it was voter fatigue. So it does probably suit his laid-back personality. But the other thing is Mike Budenholzer is allergic to playing his starters big minutes. Like, it's the playoffs. You guys are young. Like, giving Giannis 35 minutes in a game that was winnable, it's almost unforgivable. Like, Lopez had 28, Middleton 36, Holiday 37. I think all the starters played 12 or 13 minutes together today, and they actually outscored Brooklyn by 3 points in that. But how can you only play 12 or 13 minutes with your starting five in a playoff match? Like, this was a criticism against him last year, and it looked like he'd learnt from like that criticism in round one against the Heat. But against the Heat, I think they won by an average of 20 points per game in their sweep. It wasn't even needed as much. Now you're playing against a team that has more firepower than you. You need to, it's not like, well, I think Milwaukee are the deeper team, but it's not like their bench has a bunch of six-man of the year candidates, you know? Like, Bobby Portis is probably the only real weapon off their bench. So you need the starters to play big minutes if you're going to have a chance against such a good team.
Yeah, you mentioned Mike Budenholzer being allergic to things. I think it might be like getting out of the Eastern Conference because he just doesn't seem to be able to do it wherever he goes. And maybe that's on Mike Budenholzer. I mean, watching some of his stuff, I don't really agree that he's that good of a coach. I mean, he seems to keep getting the chances, and he seems to keep taking teams almost there, but he just doesn't have that last little bit as a coach. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong this year because I'd like to see Milwaukee kind of make it to the NBA Finals, but it has to be done first. Yeah,
I think if they don't make it to the finals, I think Budenholzer loses his job. It's harsh, but yeah, that's what I think is going to happen.
No, I think so too. You can't be squandering. Giannis re-signed because he wants to win, obviously, in Milwaukee, but you can't be squandering Giannis this year, otherwise he's going to be quickly asking for a trade out of Milwaukee.
Yeah, he is. He's loyal, but everybody has their... I guess there's only so much you can take before you want to explore other options.
And the guy's a winner. He wants to win. He doesn't want to lose. Like, and it doesn't matter if you win in the regular season, but then lose in the third round of the playoffs. It's still losing.
Yeah. Like you hit the nail on the head. Losing is losing. So we're almost at the end of things now. We've got one series left to discuss. So you're probably not aware of this, but the Hawks are actually my second favorite team. The backstory is the team I root for in all college sports is Oklahoma Sooners, and Trae Young is my favorite ever athlete to come out of Oklahoma.
Okay.
It was neck and neck with Baker Mayfield, but Baker went to a division rival of my favorite NFL team, so lost a little bit of love for him as a pro. Trae Young's scrappy. He's an underdog. He squeezes every bit of talent out of his 6'1" frame, and the Hawks just haven't had much success, so they're an underdog story, and I love to root for them. So I've actually they're the team I'm going to be probably watching most closely for the rest of the playoffs, but they're up against a team that was a juggernaut in the regular season, Philadelphia 76ers, who were the number one seed in the East. That was actually a surprisingly competitive East. However, this series is going to be closer, I think, than it looks on paper, pending Joel Embiid's health, because I think it was a partially torn meniscus he was diagnosed with. Correct me if I'm wrong. I read a quick injury update today and it was questionable for game 1. So
yeah, partially torn meniscus.
Okay, good. I'm glad I got that right. Meniscus isn't like a career-threatening or a super serious injury, but usually like a fully torn meniscus is usually like a 4 to 6 week injury, and he's questionable for game 1. Like I maybe I'm just talking from my Laker bias because Davis, Anthony Davis tried to play through his groin injury, but I don't think Joel Embiid suits up this series, or if he does, he's going to be very limited, and I think that it's very winnable for Atlanta as a result.
See, I think you could be correct about him not suiting up this series. I mean, a partial meniscus tear is not a slight injury, especially with what basketball players need their knees for. Like, basically everything that Joel Embiid can do well is because of his knees. So if one of them is not working, and then two, like you said, I mean, to fully tear it, then he's gone easily for the rest of the playoffs. I don't know to what level he could still play with a torn meniscus, because it's in the realm of possibilities. He could play through it and get a surgery done in the offseason, but I don't know how effective Joel Embiid is with a torn meniscus. I agree that, he'll probably sit out in the series, but I don't think that Philadelphia will have that big of a problem with Atlanta. I know Atlanta's coming off a huge, really uplifting series win over the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. Trae Young put on the Trae Young show, kind of reminded people that he's here too, as well as Luca Doncic, despite being drafted in the same age. I don't know, because Trae Young is balding. He's definitely not the same age. But no. But I don't think even without Joel Embiid, the Hawks are going to be able to get past the Sixers.
Yeah, I mean, I see the argument for that. The Sixers, I think they still played well without Embiid when he missed the stretch this season. So I'm probably underrating the Sixers a little bit, because their biggest weapon offensively outside of Embiid is Tobias Harris. I mean, he went for 25 points a game in the first round on 50, 38, 90 splits. So almost that 50, 40, 90 club. It's weird because people were, talking trash about Doc Rivers as a coach last season, and they were talking trash about Tobias Harris and his contract and as a player last season. But it turns out all they needed was each other, because every time Tobias and Doc have been paired, Doc's teams have performed above expectation, and Tobias has put up career best numbers. I think he's the big mismatch that Philadelphia have. And if, assuming an Embiid-less series, if Philadelphia are to win, it's going to be because I don't think anyone can really guard Harris on Atlanta. I mean, DeAndre Hunter is a decent defender, but he's still young and inexperienced. I think it's his second year. It's asking a lot for him to guard a guy who's as red hot as anyone in the league offensively. And on the flip side, I think Trae Young will still find a way to score and be effective, but you've got Ben Simmons, who's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. I think he'll finish second in the voting. You've got Danny Green, who, despite his nickname Icy Hot, because he can go hot and cold from the field, the one thing that never drops off is he's a really good wing defender as well. And they've got Matisse Thybulle, who's actually really, really long, probably one of the best defensive players in the league. I think he'll see more minutes to throw, not just at Young, but at Atlanta's long and rangy wings like Bogdan Bogdanovic and Danilo Gallinari, Kevin Huerter. For Atlanta to cause the upset, they need more from John Collins. He only went for 12 points a game in the series, in the 5-game series win against the Knicks. He can be a 20-point per game guy. He can be that real mismatch for Atlanta against Philadelphia. If Collins plays to his potential, they don't really have, unless they throw Simmons on him, they don't really have many guys that could probably guard him. But he needs to play better, because if he plays like he did against the Knicks, even without Embiid, I think the Sixers are going to not steamroll. I don't think it'd be a sweep, but I think it'd be like a 6-game win without Collins showing up.
Yeah, Collins needs somebody else needs to show up big time. Trae Young can't be putting up 30 points a game. That's not a recipe for success. I mean, Bogdan Bogdanovic is a really good player. He needs to show up a little bit more. I think that Atlanta is going to be just kind of, even without Joel Embiid, I think they're going to be outmatched in size as well. Dwight Howard's kind of shown a resurgence this year. It's a big guy they can go to on the inside. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting series if Joel Embiid's not in, because Doc Rivers is going to have to kind of game plan around him, but he's been able to do it for a lot of the regular season route and still led them to first overall in the East. Danny Green, his real nickname is Danny Money Green. Thank you very much, and that's just because all he does is win NBA titles. Okay, so you go back 2 years with the Raptors, last year with the Lakers,
Spurs.
Hey, I don't know. Yeah, but I think he might. If anybody's gonna be that lucky charm for the 76ers, maybe it's Danny Green. Maybe he picks up his shooting from the corners, because it's
Yeah, when he's on, he's unstoppable. There's very few players that have been as hot and cold as Danny Green. Like when he's hot, it's like a Clay light. Like not quite to the extent of a Klay Thompson, but like a Clay light. And he's one of the keys to the series. And Seth Curry actually as well. Seth was really, really, really good offensively in that first round. He put up 16 points a game. He was that kind of third scoring option aside from Embiid and Harris. Curry can shoot the lights out too, and so he'll be a problem for Atlanta for sure.
Yeah, so Seth Curry will be a bit of a question mark, I think, too, for the series as well. He took a bit of a knock. I don't know if it was his ankle or something, but he might be a little bit hit or miss for Philly for this series. But I honestly don't think that Philly's too worried, and they're looking on to the next series, which might do really well for Atlanta if they can step up and do a good showing and kind of punch Philadelphia right in the mouth, punch the champs in the mouth, and look to take that top spot. Yeah,
no, that'd be awesome. And I mean, if as long as Atlanta keep it competitive, I think that'll be building momentum for next year, because it's not a team built to win this year. All their best core players, they're really young. Just get that experience, get that taste for playoff basketball, come back next year being better and better for the experience, I suppose.
Yeah, that would be. It's a resurgence this year. It's a resurgence of young, talented players. Like we don't have the LeBron, we don't have the Curry. We don't have the Klay Thompson. There's some of the older guys. Obviously the big three from Brooklyn and Kawhi Leonard, but Luca Doncic, Trae Young, they just
Devin Booker.
Devin Booker.
It's a coming out for that next generation of stars.
Murray, Dame Lillard, despite everybody always yells, "Oh, it's Dame time." Well, they lost in 5 games, so when they win a series in the first round, then we can call it Dame time. Other than that,
I'm so glad you said that. And even Donovan Mitchell, I'd put in that kind of list of emerging stars. So it's a great time to be a fan of the NBA with this next generation coming through.
Oh, 100% it is. Love watching the basketball right now too, and even the older people. The Lakers might have lost in the first round this year, but they did win an NBA championship last year in an extended season for length that ended up in a bubble, and then they started this season very quickly. That's a quick turnaround for LeBron.
Yeah,
the whole off season now. He can get healthy. He can get Anthony Street Clothes Davis. Chuck, that was the best nickname ever. Street Clothes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm never not using that when I talk about Anthony Davis. So thank you, Charles Barkley.
I've just made up a nickname on the spot for him, Anthony Day to Davis, because he's
Day to Davis. I think I've seen that one too. Actually.
Have you? I've actually never seen that.
Yeah. I don't know if I can steal credit for that one, because I think I've seen that one too.
I've never seen it, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone else came up with it. I'm not that much of a genius. So we're running short for time. Well, we're running out of time now. So I've got one bonus question to throw you before I wrap things up. Okay. Who do you think's going to win the title and why? In 15 seconds or less.
15 seconds or less. Who do I think is going to win the title? I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Bucks, because I think it's Giannis's year.
Okay, very nice. I'm still sticking with Brooklyn for the record. And I think it's going to be Brooklyn versus... Oh, it's tough. Like, I think Brooklyn and the Jazz. There we go. I'll keep myself to 15 seconds as well. I think it's the Jazz's time to finally come out of the West, like you alluded to before.
I think I got the Jazz coming out of the West too. I think I'm going to do it. I think they're a stronger team than any of the other teams left in the West right now.
Yeah. Look at us. We're probably the only people who believe in the Jazz outside of Utah in the world. I love it. I don't
even think Utah believes in the Jazz.
No, they're still mentally scarred. So before I wrap things up, Joshua, where can people find you on social and YouTube and all that good stuff?
Absolutely. They can find me, of course, on Twitter at Joshua Griffith 0. That's the number 0. And they can find me on Instagram, jgriff81. And then, of course, on YouTube, I have my weekly show every Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, the Unnamed Sports Show. And I have lots of great guests. I keep it to every single sport, so that makes it really easy for people who love sports. You never know what I'll be talking about the next week, so make sure to tune into that coming up here Thursday.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. And thank you for being my second ever guest here. Definitely going to have you back again soon down the track. And yeah, let's reconvene after the playoffs, see how accurate we were with our predictions.
Absolutely. Well, we have it. It'll be out, and we can go back, and either we can look really dumb or we can look really smart. Yeah,
we'll promote the video on socials again if we nailed it. We'll make it fade into the ether if we're wrong.
We'll just clip that.
We'll clip that. All right. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll chat again on this show soon.
Cheers. Thanks so much.
Hey again, everybody. That was an absolute blast with Joshua today. He's a dynamo. He's so easy to talk to. You can tell that he's passionate about any and all sports, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's an upcoming powerhouse in the sports media world. That guy works harder than anyone you'll come across. So he's definitely a name to watch out for, and is an awesome guest for me to have in just the second episode ever of my show. Unfortunately, because we had such a good time conversing, we ran out of time to talk about. We wanted to talk about the Toronto Raptors because he's a Raptors fan. I guess I wanted to talk about how they went this season and what he thought for next season. But I mean, we can definitely do that in future episodes because I'm definitely going to have him on again. So thank you everybody for tuning in to the second episode of Luca Talks Sports. Make sure you actually tune in to Sports Talk Line, not just for my show, but for lots of other great content. We cover the NBA playoffs, but the NHL playoffs are in full swing. The MLB season has kicked off. We've got the Euros on the horizon, and actually the football season is closer than you think. So there's always something going on at Sports Talk Line. There's always going to be content for you. So definitely check it out, no matter what sport you love. And as always, if you like what you heard in this video or any of our other videos, please like the videos, subscribe, comment, leave your thoughts. So thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Luca DeAngelis, and this is Luca Talks Sports.